I'm Simon Prowse, and this is NavTalk, brought to you by the NavWealth Financial Group. Hello again, and welcome to another edition of NavTalk. Today's NavTalk topic is one which, to some listeners, could be a bit confronting and has to do with mental health, and more particularly men's mental health. My interviewees have found themselves brought together in otherwise unfortunate circumstances. However, through their actions and continued commitment and determination, have formed a unique organisation that aims to provide support and an outlet through which men can deal with their mental health issues and receive support in a way that is not confronting. The initial grassroots for their organisation was in the local community of Penrith, a community which, after speaking with these gentlemen, I found to be open, warm and embracing of the topic, and more so one that is provided incredible support and backing for their impetus. Whilst the gentlemen I'll be interviewing, the three of them, whom form the foundation for Penrith Men's Walk and Talk, there are also many benefactors and other support members that need to be acknowledged in this talk. Those of the local community, the personalities, the businesses, and in particular, the Penrith Panthers Rugby League Club, whom have provided financial support, facilities and infrastructure from which the organisation can operate and continue to flourish. Penrith Men's Walk and Talk initially started as a community-based program to support men with mental health issues or ones that just simply wanted to talk. However, it is now grown, as you will hear in the interview, to many other towns and communities within Australia, and is now reaching overseas countries and communities overseas. The topic of mental health and or men's mental health is a topic that is often not spoken about. In fact, it is one that is more covered up and ignored. We will be talking about death and more particularly suicide and the dramatic growth of suicide within our communities, all leading back to the fragility of humans and mental health itself. So as a general warning to our listeners, today's NavTalk will be dealing with confronting matters and matters which often lead to death or particularly suicide. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce you to the rocks or the pillars behind Penrith Men's Walk and Talk, Billy, Andrew and Kevin, the founders. Hi Billy, Andrew.
Hey mate.
And Kevin.
Afternoon, Simon.
Now gentlemen, tell us a little bit about Penrith Men's Walk and Talk.
Well, I guess we go back to 2018. The idea first came about. Actually walking daily with my wife around the Great River Loop here in Penrith. And after doing it every day for about 6 weeks, I found a real difference in my own mental health. Self-employed. I wouldn't say I was stressed with life, but life gets in the way of many things. But having that hour and a half walk every day really gave me an opportunity to talk and get my mind off work, as well as the added bonus of losing a few kilos along the way. And I actually mentioned to her, I think this would be really beneficial for me and my mates. Not that I didn't enjoy walking with her every day, but I'd like to do this more often just with the boys. I've got 2 sons of my own and a daughter. And something that really resonated with me was my son put on his social media one day that anyone was doing it a bit tough. to hit him up in I think they call it the DMs on his socials, and he was blown away by the number of people that messaged him saying that they had things on their mind they wanted to get off. His call out for that was after going to several funerals. He'd been to 4 funerals by the age of 21. 2 of them were from self-harm, suicide, and 2 he lost in a car accident. So he thought, I'd rather speak to my mates, find out what's on their mind, rather than having to go to their funeral. So he came to me and said, Dad, all these people messaged me. I don't know how to respond. He didn't have the tools, nor did I. So that was part of the reason I wanted to get this group together, which we hadn't named at that stage. And a good friend of mine, Paul Wallace, I spoke to him about the idea of getting together once a week, and he thought it was a great idea. He knew a few guys going through separation and loss of job, different things like that. So we sort of brainstormed, thought the best way to go about this. So one of the guys that first came to mind was a good friend of ours. He's a founding member, Al Harding. He lost his son to suicide at 17, a couple of years prior to us starting this walk. And we thought he'd be a good one to ask, would you like to join us in setting this group up? And he jumped at the chance. He wanted to help other people to stop them going through what he'd been through. So that's going back to 2018. We launched the walk on March 21, 2019. And the first walk was fantastic. We had 19 guys turned up and we knew every one of them. And we thought, how good's this? And it was a really fun night. It wasn't a doom and gloom. People think our walks, all guys walking around kicking stones, talking about depression. It's anything but that. It was a really good, light-hearted conversation, just where we've been at in our lives, what are the kids up to, what are you doing for work, reconnecting with old friends, old footy mates. And it was a real feel-good vibe amongst the group. And the idea was, let's do this every week. We'll do it once a week, every week of the year. And we had 19 the first week. The following we had 34 people. Then after that we had 46 people, and it just grew. But what I noticed out of those people turning up, I didn't know them all anymore. I knew all 19 the first time. Through the power of social media, we had so many people spreading the word about what we're doing. And strangers were turning up, which is fantastic. And we just needed more help. We weren't trained with anyone that did come down with some serious issues and they wanted to talk about their mental health. How do we do? I'm a carpenter. I wasn't ready for this. So Billy, who's here with us today, he was there at the very first walk, and he's got training in mental health. So it was great to have someone like Billy come on board because he has the training. He can help us and guide us as to what we should maybe be saying next if someone does come to us. And yeah, so it grew. It grew so fast that we had some insurance issues because at one stage we got over 60 people turn up, and council said, have you got insurance? We didn't even know what we needed insurance for to do a walk. Anyway, enter Andrew from Westcare. He put his hand up and said, we love what you do, what you're all about. And their organisation, Westcare, auspiced our walk, so we had the insurance. And that was back in 2019. I did the sums last night. We've had 207 walks. We've been going for 237 weeks. The 30 weeks we didn't walk was COVID. Other than that, we've walked every single Thursday night, rain, hail or shine. We missed one walk because of a flood. The water was over the road. But we've walked through rain, hail and shine. Even last night was cyclonic, but yeah. So I guess that's where it started. It started a while ago. We had reasonings, Al Harding's son Troy. It devastated the community when someone so young took their life, and we don't want any more, and it's still happening. I think the stats now are seven men a day in Australia. That's who are successful in taking their lives. And when's enough? So rather than wait for the next one, we thought we'd get on the front foot, do something proactive, not reactive, and try to stop, or let men out there know that there's somewhere they can come and talk about their problems if they've got problems. If not, turn up and reconnect, make new friends.
Kevin, you've raised a number of points in your intro. Your son, he's obviously 20 years old or thereabouts.
He's 27 now.
But quite young when he decided to reach out and go to social media. He's a very mature lad. It's a very unusual thing to do, to reach out at that age and say, does anyone want to talk?
I think you're out very fast when you go to funerals of other people your age. He lost two close mates in a car accident at a party that he was at.
Right.
So, and then with the suicide that he'd been to, he just felt maybe we need to do something. And as he said, he didn't want to go. He'd rather listen to their stories than go to their funeral.
And what's your son's name, Kevin?
Jared.
So it could be called Jared's Men's Walk and Talk, to be fair, because he sort of was the instigator of where we are today.
That was one of the stories that resonated with me. And we don't know what's going on in these young kids' lives. I've got two sons and a daughter, and I'd hate to think that they couldn't come to me with something that they, a problem that they thought they couldn't resolve any other way than ending it. Life's too precious to, and I think a lot of this problems with the youth or anyone at this stage, it's a reactive thing to do. It might be after a girlfriend breakup or a loss of job. And a bit of sadness, and I think they can't see a light at the end of the tunnel. But things are always brighter days ahead. Whatever someone's going through right now, they'll get through it. And I think we as a group, we're there to help people get through it until those better days come. And we've seen it personally. We've seen guys come down, they're at rock bottom, and they might spend six weeks with us. Others have been there since the beginning. They've been going now for 4.5 years. And we've got guys that are reformed alcoholics, people that have lost their jobs, people that have been widowed. And one gentleman, he lost his wife and he could see no future. And we're happy now that he's found another partner and his life's bright again for him. But at that point in time, he was at his darkest moment. So you just got to get through that really dark period. So.
Yeah.
Definitely my children had an influence on why I'd started this.
Yeah.
So I want them to know that there's always someone there.
Interesting. Billy, you turn up at the first walk, and I assume it's very casual, it's put out there on social media. How do you find out about it and end up going, I'm going along?
I was at a function with the organisation I work with. We were actually receiving a mental health award from the local council. And at that event was Paul, who Kevin has already mentioned. And when he heard, when he found out there was a bloke involved in mental health, they were thinking of doing this thing, he thought I would be a good fit to come along and support the guys on the walk. So I jumped at the idea. As you can tell, I'm not from this country, not even from this area. So I didn't have many friends in that. So I jumped at the opportunity of going down and meeting these guys, engaging with them, having that background to talk to people. I thought I could do something maybe useful here. And I went down. The first night I went, actually spoke to Al Harding. A good chat with him. And from that there, hearing his story, I thought that was a great that he was actually doing this and getting it out there, because if other people could hear what he was saying, it would encourage them to go and seek help. So next week came along, there was more people there. We found that there were a few of those guys who did actually need support. And because Kevin and Al and Paul knew that I had that mental health background, they were able to ask me to support these guys. I did that. As the weeks went on, more and more people, more and more guys turned up who needed that support. And I found that come the end of a walk, there was maybe 5 or 6 guys all needing the support, and I was the only one able to help them. And they would all be standing around, and maybe for 2 or 3 hours after the walk ended, I'd still be there, you know, supporting these guys and not wanting them to go home in a bad state. So along the line of it, we thought maybe we should try and look at getting some training for these guys and some mental health training. So opportunity came along where we got some funding through Andrew, and lo and behold, we got training. The guys now aren't afraid to hear someone's stories. They aren't afraid to even go seeking people who are, you know, doing it tough. And now we've got that support, that I'm not the only one giving it, that there are other people giving it, including these 2 gentlemen here. So yeah, that's where I come into it, and we get bigger and better. And not only do we meet them on the walk, but these guys, some of them don't want maybe to go to other services, but they'd be quite happy to meet up with me outside of the walk. So, you know, there's times where I would go for a coffee with them during the week. Some of them have got my phone number, and whenever they're going bad, they'll give me a call. And yeah, even last night, got a call around after 10 o'clock, and there was someone not going too well. He was in tears, relationship breakup, other things happening in his life too. And so was able to talk to him and meet up with him this morning just to make sure that he was okay overnight. So that's the sort of things not only I do, but I know some of the other guys do as well.
Billy, you've got a mental health background. Are you a psychologist? Or?
No, I'm not. No. I have a counselling qualification.
Yep.
Which I got back in Northern Ireland. And if you want, I can sort of tell you a little bit about that. There's a lot of trouble going on over there. And there came a point where the trouble was coming to an end and there was a void. And young people, particularly, who had been, let's say, under the influence of certain people in their areas, that influence was removed, and they found themselves free to do things that other kids were doing in other parts of you know, the UK, drugs, alcohol. That became a big issue. Lots of these kids took too much drugs and were starting to die because of it. Young people, like kids as young as 12, 11, killing themselves through drugs overdose. And not only that, sometimes when one died, you would get multiple friends taking their lives over the next few days as well.
Crikey.
There was no support there in the community. There was no services really to support them. Not really. So some groups started to form in different areas. A group formed in my area too, where parents just concerned, worried for their children, stepped up and started to bring in things that these young people could do to stop them going down that line of drugs, and also to keep them away from joining possibly paramilitary groups, getting into trouble, whatever. So we started forming football groups, you know, sports groups, taking them away from the areas. And from that there, we decided to train ourselves so that we could better support these young people. And the opportunity came along for me to study diploma. I took that opportunity, and that then went back into the community, supporting other young people. I had a passion for it then. I was a telephone engineer. I worked in factories, just like Kevin. I had no background in mental health. But when this crisis came to us, to our doors, we had to stand up as a community, as parents, and that changed my whole way of life then, and I became more involved in community work and mental health.
Okay.
So then, 2007, the family came to Australia, and I got a job in mental health, and as I said, that's when I met Paul.
So your job is mental health. So we're not creating a whole new world for you in terms of this men's walk and talk, and suddenly you're having to start up a whole. You need another one of you to keep up with this.
Yeah, indeed. And particularly on community mental health.
Right.
So with my job, I would go out into the community, do lots of events, presentations, networking with lots of groups and services, promoting what the particular service that I was working for did, so that to encourage people to come along to that service. And that's basically what we're doing through the men's walk.
Yeah, it works hand in hand.
It works very much hand in hand.
Now, we haven't spoken to you yet, Andrew, and it sounds like where Kevin mentioned you were the sort of the one that pulled it together in a more structured way and brought some, if you like, funding or background structure to the group. Is that fair?
Well, that could be an overstatement, but basically the walk had found itself in a situation where, actually, first of all, I'll just say I'd watched the walk develop from its early stages.
So you didn't walk with them, you watched?
For a good medical, I had a bit of a pre-existing medical condition. I'd actually had a pulmonary embolism, and which had restricted me somewhat physically engaging, but from a distance. And in fact, I'd called Paul Wallace, good old mate Wallace, up one day and said, "Mate, I'd like to sponsor the coffees." And he basically swore at me and in a nice, friendly kind of way and said, "No, rack off, because I'm being in the community sector. No, we'll get other sponsors for that." And but 2 or 3 weeks later, he called me back and he said, "Look, we've got a bit of a situation. We wouldn't mind your advice on this." And it had come up that as an organised activity, there was some responsible accountability from an insurance perspective. That the lads discovered that they were somewhat personally liable for any unfortunate things that might occur on the walk. And anyway, so as a result of that conversation, I reached out to my board members and said, "Look, just sort of explored the potential that we should be able to auspice this activity." And it's just a bit of a, there's a process. Some were overseas and whatever, and in the meantime, all kinds of stuff had hit the fan, and it's sort of gone on to into the media. It's a whole story in itself, which the boys could share more detail. That the walk actually had to be stopped. Anyway, finally I received the feedback from our board chairman and others overseas and out of touch that, yes, our organisation would be honoured to cover the insurance and, auspice the activity, sort of certainly aligned with our focus on meeting local needs. So just from that practical point of view, that was good. And then, within a very short amount of time, the lads had asked me to join them as an organiser of the activity, which is one of my highest honours in this life, I can tell you that. I mean, we've been involved in many activities across local Penrith, but I remember, for an example, once I remember pitching we're about to launch a major domestic violence activity, and a friend of mine was at that meeting. And that night, or a day or two later, I met him at a local hotel establishment, and he said, "Yeah, I get it," he said. "Domestic violence, it's a big one. Yeah, I get it." But he said, "What you really want to do is just do something about suicide." He said, "That's our big one." I'll never forget that conversation. In that moment, I had said, "Look, that day will come. That day will come." Having no idea that day would come through engagement with an activity such as this. But I felt our good friend, Troy was his name, he was kind of speaking from the heart of the community when he said, "This is our big one." And how profoundly true that was, who could know? And it was like a cry from the depths of the very fabric of our community. This is our big one. Because too many of our sons, our friends, our fathers, people in the business community across such a spectrum, and of course most of it we never hear. You talk to the police and the medical people, they've got a very different reality on this because they know everything, and often we don't hear the breadth of how that has affected this community, like every community. And to think that we could just be in the picture, is quite both personally, certainly for our Westcare organisation, brought a whole new depth of meaningfulness to our existence and purpose. And when you meet these men who, like Kev said, they may come for a short period while they're in that really dark spot or some longer term, and when you hear them and their family members, several times I met a girl in at something, and she said, "Oh, my dad is that." She said that has saved his life, and you hear her express from her point of view, what just this weekly walk has meant to that man. There's actually quite a few examples like that we could share. You think, wow, we've hit the big one here, and it's. I think it's pretty low key. It's organic. It sort of evolves as it goes along, but it's real. That's what guys say. They like it. It's real. It's not some funny. It's a capacity to relate. Some just sort of plug in and never go. Others come and go, and you'll actually see it. But sometimes they'll express that they're going through a bit of a patch, and they'll come. They know they'll get a listening ear. They'll get encouragement. They'll get a bit of fellowship, meaningful engagement. It's a basic human need, really, that otherwise. And we say it's, physical, social, and mental. And it's, I think it's primarily social. The social engagement, I think that's the key strength. It's physical by very definition it's a walk. And I guarantee a lot of these guys would not be doing a weekly walk, 6.5 kilometre walk around the lovely Nepean River, unless they were coming down here every week. So that's meaningful. And the mental, all kinds of things hang off that, I mean, sure, we discuss, and I mean, Billy gets hit up with a lot of this stuff, but technically, we're not like a counselling service by any means, but a lot of discussions around, referrals to medical, and we can talk openly about people on medication, those discussions, and it's certainly a particular referral thing, and especially now with a lot of our guys being trained in, we've got that 40-odd who actually are certified mental health first aiders. That's amazing, and there's more to come, more training to come.
And that's come off the back of the walk, the 40 trained.
Oh yeah, they're all
people
all
in mental
associated
health.
with that,
Can I just segue a second? Westcare. Tell us a little bit about Westcare. So you're employed by Westcare?
Yeah,
Is that
I'm
fair?
the director of Westcare. So
Right.
Westcare's been around Penrith for, since 1977, believe it or not, under various names. And our, the mission, like a vision statement we live on is quite simple. It's local needs met by local people. And so our focus is literally this geographical area that we call Penrith and the surrounds, And so we're in a bit of everything, emergency relief and homelessness and practical support, domestic violence, etc. So something like our walk, it just fits right in.
Plugged perfect.
And we often find there's crossover big time.
Yeah, I bet.
It's just a fit that just a line, just a local focused organisation that's had a long-standing thing, local needs met by local people. Like I say, it's a fit, and we love it.
Yeah, and the resources you could probably bring to the table for these for this group is
That's a
quite
big
amazing.
one. I mean, even this, we use the example here of the mental health training. So our friends at and there's various all kinds of people support this in many ways, but particularly the St Mary's Diggers and Band Club. They've given us substantial amounts of funds specifically for this training. Others have given us funds for that as well. Our local Panthers here, our beloved Panthers, they, without question, they avail training space and the facilities, so everyone's on board there. Our local friend Claire Clifford from Mine Challenge, so she provides us very generous rates at training. It's a very great passion of hers to provide the training. So again, as far as Westcare goes, all we're really doing is just bringing these things together. So we're not claiming, too much credence here, but just bringing all these things together. Well, isn't that what makes a community? So that just certainly ticking our vision and our heart, our own personal journey in the midst of this.
And not to mention these facilities we're looking in that is kindly Penrith put forward. It's pretty amazing in
It's
itself,
insane.
right?
I mean, a couple of years ago, coming up 2 years anyway, we're in a building in Henry Street, a council-owned building, 12 community organisations in there, and one of the adjoining units, something caught fire and burned all the buildings. So we had 2 significant units up there, but to hear Penrith Panthers. In fact, a couple of young ladies in their membership team saw me on the news. You know what they said? Oh, you know what can come from a oh? That started a discussion. And suddenly they're talking to the property team at Panthers and said, we got any space that they can continue their work? And that goes to the Panthers board at every level. We're big fans of Panthers, by the way, not just on the football field, although we could talk a lot about that. But as an organisation, exceptionally community-minded. And as a result of that, for the last 18 months, they've provided some wonderful office space in the Panthers Stadium. And that's moved into where we're sitting right now, incredible, 75 square metre office in a $110 million building. At one end, you've got the 5-star Pullman Hotel, the other end, the Western Sydney Conference Centre, and smack bang in the middle is their commitment to community, with Panthers on the prowl next door, these community spaces that people can train and meet, and our new HQ, headquarters for Westcare, where we are right now, but it's testament to the community spirit of Penrith.
Oh, it's testament to a lot of you for banging the drum and continuing. I mean, it's like anything. You do stuff for long enough and with momentum eventually comes, right?
True.
Now, you mentioned it's and this is probably to all of you, it's a 6.5K walk. And Andrew, I'm assuming you've started walking because you're over your medical condition by now.
Yes, I am. I find I walk better in the morning, so believe it or not, there is an enduring thing from that pre-existing medical condition with fence, but I'm certainly there every week and, setting up, packing up and things like that. Some evenings I just can't walk, so that's an ongoing thing, but yeah.
So is the 6.5 the same walk every Thursday?
We have what we call it's called the Great River Loop. You're welcome to come and join us, by the way. We meet at a coffee club down at the Penrith River, right near the boat ramp. And from there, it's a beautiful walk. It's footpath all the way around the river. You cross over our new bridge, Yolandi crossing. Is that correct? Yolandi crossing. And then head down River Road on Avenue Plainside, and then cross back over on the M4 bridge. And it's 6.4 kilometres. It's increased by about 100 or 200 metres with some renovations to the park going on over River Road. But yeah, look, the first time you do it, especially for the older guys, they come next week and they're so sore, they're not conditioned to do it. But after a while, you do become conditioned to it, and guys will not miss the walk for anything.
Yeah, right.
And we've turned up, and it's bucketing down, and they turn up with their umbrellas and they're ready to walk. And we've got one, and we actually recorded on social media. Over 80 people turned up in cyclonic, raining conditions. You thought, wow, if these guys turn up, they really must need the walk. And like I said, socially, it's fantastic for a lot of those guys. It's the one day of the week they get out of the house, catch up with the fellas. And with the rugby league side going so well, there's always a lot of happiness, banter, and that Billy's a mad, manly fan, so he needs mental health support himself. But we have a lot of fun down there, and now we're into the cricket season. But if we just go back to the Panthers, the amount of support we've had there with our mental health training, we had guys like Jose and Terry turn up, talk to the guys, had our own walk. Ivan's turned up. Peter Wallace and Brad Drew, they came down for the whole squad. And a great story there. Remember Brad saying, take along a bit of your Panther gear, some training shorts, a training shirt. And he wanted them to engage with one of the walkers, get to know who they are, and then they donated their article of clothing to that walker. And that's the sort of community that we live in. Not only are they doing great things on the football field, but outside of football, I've taken, I took a young boy who was displaced. He was foster care in a really bad headspace. And I rang up Al, one of the organisers, who actually works at Panthers now. He's a gear steward. And I said, Al, is there anything you can do? He said, let me speak to Ivan. Nothing was a problem. Took the young boy down there, he got to meet all the players. They all come up and shook his hand, got a photograph. And they're the sort of things that we don't see in the media. They're the feel-good stories. We see it all the time. It wasn't long after we first started the walk, and Dave O'Neill, one of the former board members, he contacted me and said, why don't you bring the fellas through the academy? So we came down, we walked through the academy. Lydia showed us through the academy, and then he took us across the road. And we're actually playing Manly that night. It was a Thursday night. Gave us free entry into the ground. That's when Penrith weren't travelling as good.
So Manly won.
I think that was the very first game that turned around since 2019. So that's the sort of community that we live in.
Yeah.
And with, like, Westcare is fully funded by donations from the community. And to have these guys, we just don't survive because we need insurance.
Mm.
We have a sponsor for our coffees. We have a free coffee before our walk. So we encourage the guys to turn up an hour before the walk starts. Currently, carrying daylight saving, we walk at 7. Encourage the guys to turn up anywhere from 6 o'clock onwards, and that hour is where a lot of guys like to interact,
Yeah.
talk, and whatnot.
Yeah.
And sometimes for someone new coming to the walk, to break the ice, you're not sure what to do with your hands.
Mm.
We have coffees, and all that coffee is funded by the community. And we have different sponsors every month come on board and put their hand up to pay for the coffees. And we can't tell you how important that part of the urging is. Anyone suffering social anxiety and coming down for the first time, we can break the ice, say, mate, do you want a coffee? Can I order you a latte? Would you like a cappuccino? Just get a conversation started. And we find that it's really easy to talk to guys over a coffee. And then it may take 3, 4, 5 weeks for them to feel confident enough to talk to you about a personal problem. A lot of people just like to observe the first couple of weeks. So, yeah, it's a very feel-good environment down there. Can't stress how. I think a lot of the guys go, I don't want to go to that. Bunch of doom and gloom. It's anything but doom and gloom. It's so uplifting. If there's doom and gloom, I wouldn't do it. It wouldn't be good for my own mental health.
I dare say there's a lot of banter that goes on in that 6.5 kilometres too.
We discover all sorts of topics and solve all the world's problems every week.
Yeah, some great characters as well come along.
We must have 4 or 5 regular guys with brain injuries with their carers team.
Wow.
We're being referred to now by different doctors within the community to, even one guy last night had a heart attack 8 weeks ago. His referral from the doctor is get down to the Penrith Walk and talk, get some fitness.
Wow. And the doctor's done that on his own back rather than you guys sort of giving a pamphlet or something.
We've done a lot of advertising.
Yeah, they become aware of what we do here. A lot of because of the community contact that we have, it's just talked about. And like, how many Facebook followers do we have?
Yeah, we're over 10,000 followers.
Yeah, so
Wow.
Our videos, engaging over 30,000 people. And if we get a character like Royce Simmons came down to our walk, and I like to do a little interview.
Little shorty Royce.
Royce,
Yeah.
Panther legend,
Yep.
2-try hero in the grand final. But what he does in the community at the moment, he's walking for dementia.
Yeah.
And he's always, if you ever need me, come down. We get guys down there. Joshy Layla from the cricket, Big Bash cricket. He came down, he lives local. We have so many local heroes that come along to our functions. Jessica Fox was another. So we live in a very rich place of personalities, and they all know about our walk. And even our local members, we've spoken about us at length at Parliament about the difference we're making in the community. So
It's amazing.
to have all that support, and it's fantastic. But the best ones for us is, like Andrew said, this girl said, "You saved my dad."
And look, I'm probably going on a bit of a limb here, but I dare say just about everyone's been touched by this. So where you get the sporting heroes or the cult figures, if you like, well, they've probably seen it themselves. So they're sort of resonating somewhat, and makes it easier for them to engage with you guys.
Mental health doesn't discriminate.
Well, Sam Fox, I think she paddles, doesn't she?
Jessica.
Jessica, I've got the wrong name.
Page 3.
They're local, and they we had a fundraising event, and her and her dad, and that's the community that we live in. Not just for the men's walk, for Westcare. If someone's in need in the local area, we believe we've got the best community in Australia.
That's fantastic.
It's easy to say that, but yeah, it speaks volumes when we see the amount of support that we get from gyms. We've got a gym next Friday doing a burpee challenge, trying to raise $10,000 for the women's walking tour. Last year they raised $7,000 for our walk. Next Friday they're doing a burpee challenge, trying to raise $10,000. So it's those sorts of organisations, clubs, pubs, gyms.
They come to us. You know, we don't even need to sell it. They come to us.
Yeah.
And how can we help?
Yeah, that's great.
And they do things.
One of our best sponsors, he's sponsoring this month. I don't know whether I should be sponsoring, putting that. It's his 5th time he's sponsored. He sponsors us every year. And the first time he contacted me and said, I want to pay for the coffees. I said, I'll advertise your business. He said, Kev, I don't need to advertise my business. I said, I just love what you do. I said, but if I advertise your business, other businesses might jump on board. And they did. But a lot of them don't want recognition. They support what we do. And that gives us all the motivation that we need to keep doing what we're doing. So.
Great. Billy, and I'm just drawing on your experiences here. You mentioned that you last evening or in last week that you met with a fellow who wasn't doing too well. Is this a very regular thing? So after the talk, after the walk, you'll have a few people to hang around, and they'll hang around for a couple of hours, and there's only one of you.
Mm-hmm.
Are you sort of managing and maybe give us an example of how you deal with a situation like that with, you got 5 guys hanging around at the end that obviously want to talk.
I've got a very good wife, very supportive wife. I know they listen to me. So I get that out there. I get that off my shoulders and, move on to the next one. But as I say, it's a passion for me. And I love to see, Kevin's talking about there about what the business community do to support us. Part of our payback to that is to go out to these businesses and talk to their staff, smoke break the first thing in the morning before they all go off to work, do a presentation about what we do, and raise awareness within those guys, because a lot of those guys maybe never heard of it, but I'm telling them, we talk to them, we tell them what we do, and from those conversations at that particular stage, we've had amazing things happen. A while ago, I was out at one organisation, or one company, just after I finished the presentation. It was about 80 blokes. We were all gathered in a circle in their yard, and one of the guys stepped forward and told a story about a few weeks before that, he was ready to take his life. He was in his garage with a noose around his neck, and someone rang his doorbell. So he took the noose off and went and answered the door, and that took his mind.
Reality check.
That was a reality. The startling thing was all his workmates didn't know that this guy was going through an issue.
Of course
he
they
wore
would.
the mask,
Yeah.
and they were all really taken aback at this here, and supported him. And from that there, 3 other guys in that one company have come forward to say they're struggling, they need help, all to different degrees. So it's just amazing how, one talk can lead to something else, We talk about, a ripple effect when someone in the community commits suicide. It can affect up to 150 people.
More than that even, I'd
Yeah,
say.
probably more. But I think what we're doing is doing that reverse ripple effect. So some guys who are coming down and they're getting supported by us, they're leaving in a happier place. That reflects back on their family, their friends, their work, and that ripple effect, happiness is starting to go back out through the community. And that's what I think we're doing, changing that.
It's a very brave soul, that man who at the talk
Absolutely.
stepped forward. I mean, that's a big thing to do, right?
Massive. But nobody knew about it. None of his friends, colleagues knew about that.
Yeah. Well, I get that part where this is very personal. This is not something we're used to, and especially, and I'm probably going to be stigmatism here, especially men, and probably men our age and older, seen and not heard, just get on with it and forget what's going on upstairs and toughen up.
Definitely used to. We're much more used to saying it.
Yeah.
Because we've been doing it now for nearly 5 years. blokes are more than happy to tell their story. Just before we do our walk, I usually get up and do a bit of an intro, tell them about what we're about. And we have special themed nights throughout the year. We have a Gen Z night and a tradie night. And we'll get guest speakers in. And we had a Golden Oldies night. And this gentleman got up, one of our walkers, and when he finished talking, it wasn't a dry eye.
Yeah.
And everyone thinks if he can do it, why can't I? And another guy turned up and he told his story. And he looks bulletproof, and, 6 foot, covered in tattoos. And he's as macho as they come. But he just, mate, he said, I needed help. He put his hand up. And we pride ourselves on being very non-judgmental. That's what we sell ourselves. A non-judgmental group. You can come and tell whatever, and we will not judge you. And so guys are very confident within our circle to talk about anything now. And it definitely makes a difference. We had a guy recently come down, well, so recently, it was last year, might have been 2 years ago, and because we're a men's health group, we're not a mental health group, we're a men's health. He spoke about melanoma. He lost his sister-in-law to melanoma. He's doing a 24-hour walk tomorrow, Greg Bond, for melanoma research, raising money and awareness. But just on that conversation, talking about him forcing in his skin check, Andrew went and had his skin checked and had a melanoma cut out.
We're not alone. And it's unforgettable when Bondi brought his mate Simo down, stage 4, undergoing, new research treatment. Many guys went out and got tested and had stuff cut out. I think how many did we say?
Me too.
You too?
Yep.
Yeah. Like at least 7 or 8 guys had things cut out of them. I delayed because I finally got in for a check, and suddenly a big cut on the forehead, this big thing cut out of me, and you think, whoa, Nana, so it's men's health. It's, I must raise too, Billy mentioned before, last month I gave a presentation on the walk to a disability group. And anyway, at the end of it, I was called in, and one of their clients had just disclosed to the worker that he also had just had an attempt to self-harm, and no one knew. And anyway, the duty of care of this organisation for him is admirable. That worker, I was born into an office with her and the gentleman, and was admirable. But I must say, we must be aware, because in effect, his emotional, he got quite emotional, is that in effect, perhaps I'd actually triggered something talking about the walk. And I'm very aware, even as we're discussing this right now, that even this conversation, this topic that we're on, can be quite a sensitive thing, even a trigger topic. And we would certainly encourage anyone. So in both of these situations, the tradesman that Billy mentioned, this tremendous young man at the event I was speaking at, to their great credit, they had reached out and then through that received great care and response to that. So we can certainly encourage anyone that's even listening to this right now. It's important to reach out. There's great care, and in both of those situations, both of those individuals have really moved on into a much more positive space because they raised it with someone. So we certainly encourage any listeners here how vital and important it is, and how helpful it is. Any darkness, heavy mental health concern that you may be carrying, let alone if it's really pushing some hot buttons, please reach out. Whether it's ringing Lifeline, your local, Beyond Blue, etc. Whatever the channel is, we encourage people, make that phone call or reach out to that person. And not only to help you get out of this particularly dark place you may in, but take the steps into a much brighter place and a brighter future. So just can't help but put that bit in there, eh?
Well, you've got to open the door, right? And then what I'm hearing is there's plenty of people ready to run through it once you open it, but the brave step is to open it.
Absolutely.
Right. Gents, we access this walk and talk. We turn up at the coffee club. We have our coffee. Does anyone turn up? You've got to fill out a form. How do we access you? How does this work? You've got to wear a Penrith top.
There's no registration. There's no signing up. You just turn up and
Get ready to walk.
we're very mindful now to look outside our little circle that starts off as a little circle, and then our average number is somewhere between 30 and 50, depending on the
Per walk? Yeah.
per walk. Billy's very good at looking over my shoulder and just peering off into the bushes behind where the coffee club is to see guys. Just guys are looking in.
The
They wanna
recluse.
join us, but they don't know how to approach us.
Yep. And there'll be a lot of that, I guess.
That's the anxiety
Yeah.
these guys are going through. And I had one guy, he said, I said, first time? He said, no, it's my sixth time I've been here. I said, oh, sorry, mate, I didn't reckon. He said, no, it's the first time I've walked. I've turned up 6 times.
Stayed in the car or
Stayed in
hid.
the car. They can't get out of the car. The group's too big. So we'll come down early. Come down when we first hit. There's 5 or 6 guys at the beginning of the hour, rather than 50 guys at the end of it. And so that's what he did. He said, oh, came down early. And if you come down, once you break the ice, I don't know what I was worried about. We understand that to turn up to any event, I don't ever like turning up to an event on my own. When I was asked to come and do the podcast, can I ring a friend? Because it's a normal feeling.
Yeah.
Anxiety. But everyone's got a different level of it.
Yep.
I think there's a lot of mental health. I think we're all got something going on in our lives, but it's all at a different level, whether it's sadness or a form of depression or anxiety or whatever it might be. So once they come there and realise that they're not on their own, they feel much better.
What do you think of the positive steps this guy's done? You know, the first 5 he's stuck in his world, and by even turning up on the 6th time and actually.
He wants to be there.
It's-
He wouldn't have turned off.
But you think of what he's accomplished in his world, right? And-
Absolutely.
And
But particularly rewarding because we get to know these guys. So we know these stories. No one else would know these stories, these situations. And it's happened several times, but it happened not that long ago. There was one particular guy exceptionally anxious, and there's a lot more I could say about that. Anyway, he's there, he's a regular there. And then another guy turns up, but I know his story because I met him on his first night, just like Kev was saying. Hear that story. And then a couple of weeks later, another guy turns up. We know who he is because he's messaged us beforehand. So he comes along. We know exactly who he is. We meet him first time. I introduce him to the other gentleman. Suddenly they connect. And now you come the next week and they're there chatting. You know both their stories. They don't know what you know. And I think, how much of this goes on? That is particularly rewarding to see that dynamic happening.
well, you're not just saving lives and melanoma because it hasn't ruined your pretty face, Andrew.
They did a good job, I must say. Not quite fair. Go on.
But you're teaching people to break through boundaries that they haven't. It's the wall, right? Whether it is getting out of the car or it is actually talking, it's pretty amazing. And one life, I don't know how you put a value on it,
Yeah.
but you save one, you're miles ahead of the game.
Absolutely. Yep. It's nothing. It's we're just a bunch of guys coming together once a week,
Is that what you tell your wives, or is that?
It's not a clinic. It's very anything but clinical.
Yeah.
I think that's the
Yeah.
right word.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we sort of mumble and jumble our way through it. We're not scripted. We get up and talk, but it's raw.
Yeah.
Um,
It's honest.
and we can get down there, and we're not telling them what the doctor or someone else might think they've got to be told. We'll just tell them as it is, because if they tell us their issue, it's I don't know. I don't know what the answer is, mate. But
I'm hearing you.
what I can do is put you in touch with someone.
Yeah.
So we have the connections to put them in touch with the professional people.
Yeah.
If someone is at that really dark spot, I'm not trained to even give advice, but I do have the connections to put him in touch with someone who can help him.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I think too. Sorry. What this also does, it not only resonates in this community, but other blokes in other communities are inspired by this as well. So there's a group up in Springwood, there's a group in Lawson, there's groups going to be formed in Blacktown soon, Parramatta, Narrabeen, Gold Coast. They're all over the place. And I know there's even one back in Belfast that started about a year ago and doing great things there. So it's not only affecting this community, it's spreading out all over.
That's fantastic. I was about to ask that next. I mean, Penrith Walk and Talk, you're going to have to sort of break the Penrith off and start.
Well,
It's a very direct contrast of what we started. on the Gold Coast contacted me and wanted to start one up on the Gold Coast. Adam's his name, and they have the Gold Coast Men's Walk and Talk. And then the guy from Bathurst, there's the Bathurst Men's Walk and Talk. There's Peakhurst Men's Walk and Talk. There's one that's going to start up in Parks, and that's directly associated with us. One of our guys moved up to the Central Coast. There's the Central Coast Men's Walk and Talk. But then there's other guys who like what we do, and they've started their own walk and talk group. We had a guy come down from Brisbane last week. He follows us on Facebook, and they're from an organisation called the Walk and Talk. There's the Springwood one Billy's talking about. They're called Walk It Off. We don't care who you're from, just get out there and start talking. And the walking part of it, the physical side of it, is so good for your mental health. And I think anyone that does some sort of physical activity will tell you how good it is for your mental health.
We don't propose to have all the answers or know everything. So what we try and do is connect by Zoom to all these other groups around the country.
Yeah.
And we're having another meeting at the end of the month. And we'll talk about what's working, what's not working, can we help anybody, and making that connection more concrete. These guys will be able to pick up the phone to us, and we'll be able to contact them if there's any issues that they need help and support with. Insurance might be a big thing for some of these guys. We have somebody who can maybe advise them a little bit around that there. Other things, maybe they have something else happening in their area they don't know how to handle. Maybe one of the other groups have handled that. So this connection outside of just our own little bubble is cementing what we're doing for lots more men and making it, more real for more men.
And the shoots are going off into the community, which is fantastic.
And as Kevin has pointed out too, the women's walk and talk too started 2 years ago now.
I think they've come up for 3 years.
Yeah. And Springwood have got, they're inspired by what happened there, so they've got their own women's walk and talk as well up there.
You're leading me down to a good question, gents. Where are we taking? Where to next? I mean, we've got good momentum. We're starting to spread around the country. Have we got a vision for where this might go, or is it more that we'll just see how it goes?
Me personally, there's no end game. I'd like to see it one day that everyone just knows on a Thursday night, if you go down to the coffee club at the Pang, there'll be someone there to talk to. And we know that we've had to cancel our walk only through COVID and one extreme weather condition where we had the flood.
Well, we had the Zoom meetings through the COVID though, twice a week.
But the guys still turned up even though we weren't there.
Wow.
So the guys are still turning up. They say, oh yeah, but we came up and had a coffee. So that's great, because that's what we want to do. Form your own little group. People say, oh, can we do this twice a week? I said, you can. Insurance doesn't allow us to do it twice a week. I'm time poor with work and family.
You've got lives.
Yeah. I said that that's what you need to do. Speak to those guys who wants to do it. And so guys are meeting up on a Saturday morning going for a walk, or they're meeting up on a Tuesday afternoon and doing a walk. So our walk is officially every Thursday evening.
Yeah. But it morphs, and people, I dare say, they're friendships and
I didn't know this guy.
That's it. The finest people. I mean, I'd never met Jamie Large. I'd never even heard of Kevin Kenny. I knew Wallace, Harding and Billy around the traps, and these are some of the finest people you meet. And then you move on to the walkers. Seriously.
Yeah.
I was away for a couple of weeks, you come back and you see these guys, our regular walkers who you know, like they're particularly good friends. They're good guys. And to think that could be replicated in all these places, that's a vision to live for, just to keep that stream flowing. I think that's really the vision.
That's my vision, to have something like this immense support group in every area.
Yeah. Whatever manner it's under, just good people together, able to, not just get this stuff out and encourage one another. Isn't that it?
That's it.
I can't see finishing. I enjoy it. I love doing what we do. It's definitely not a chore, and it's a routine for me as well. Get home Thursday. It's beginning of a long weekend. Thursday night's a great night to get out of the house, connect with the other gentlemen in the group, and you only got to get through Friday then, into the weekend. But yeah, it's good fun. But Andrew brought up a good point. If we could mention Jamie Large, he's our 6th member of our organising committee. I asked Jamie to come on board at the very start because he's a great guy. But he owns a coffee van business, and he's so community minded. Whenever we need something, ask Jamie because Jamie can get the job done. And he's spreading our word. He's working out there at the new airport in
Badgerys Creek.
Badgerys Creek. And he's out there at 4 o'clock in the morning serving coffee to the guys, and he's spreading mental health to these guys. And that industry, the construction industry, is one of the worst for
Mental health is
and suicide and things like that. So while Jamie's not always present at our walls, he's doing great things for us while he's on the road serving coffees. And that connection between the coffee and the conversation is a really, like I said, it's a great icebreaker. But over coffee. So,
well, it's that or beer, isn't it? So coffee is the
well, we're very conscious
lesser of the
when we
two
set this
evils.
up that we can't be letting out a pub.
Yeah.
That one's harder to sell to the missus that
I
are going to
bet.
go to the pub.
Well, you've
That's
already
so nice
chopped
for
her off from
mental
walk.
health.
Well, yeah, you don't walk with her anymore, so she's sort of got used to walking alone, I guess.
No, I'll walk every day with her.
Yeah, well, very good.
And Friday's my time with the boys.
Yeah, great. Oh, gentlemen, look, I take my hat off to all of you. What you're doing is amazing. I'm here to try and help you spread your word, and believe me, I've seen it in my life, and I've seen it with my clients. And what you're doing is phenomenal, and I commend you all. And I don't know how you can do it in your spare time, but you do it. So well done. Is there any way to particularly get hold of you? Is there a better angle? Is it just on the internet, social media? What's the best way to find Penrith Men's Help Walk and Talk?
Facebook is number one. We're on the other socials, Instagram and TikTok. It's replicated. Essentially, because people think, well, I'm not on Facebook. Well, the quickest way, to be honest, to get there is just type in walk.org.au. That'll take you straight to our Facebook page, even if you don't use Facebook on the internet. Otherwise, get onto Facebook particularly and search Penrith Men's Walk and Talk, or the Instagram or TikTok.
And those are people out there that want to support or assist with financial means or others. Is it the same process for them?
Yeah, you can inquire through that. All the donations come through our Westcare, because any financial donations directly are tax deductible through Westcare, which can be a benefit to people.
Yep.
Well, there might be other. We find people want to contribute all kinds of ways. Just reach out to us. Just inbox us through the Facebook.
Yeah. The best way is Messenger. We're advised not to give out our personal numbers for obvious reasons.
Yep.
A few legalities around that, and not only we can't be taking calls at 11 o'clock at night. So if it's something bad at that time, like Andrew said, you should be ringing Lifeline.
Yep.
Other than that, if someone hits us up in Messenger, we always respond. And if someone wants to support us, again, hit us up in Messenger. We can share our number through Messenger. We just don't have a public number.
I understand. And more so on that, if the cloud's there and it doesn't look like it's going to part, you guys can find the way to show a pathway, and tomorrow's a different day, right?
Yeah,
True.
So well done. And thank you for your time today. I really appreciate it. And
Thank you for your time.
I look forward to see where this goes in the next few years. I'd love to come back and check in. And when you've got 3,000 people going for a walk, how the hell are you going to catch up with everyone will be the next challenge.
Yeah, well, we're at our 5th birthday coming up next year, which we're planning a big event for that one. But any listeners out there, like Andrew said, if you get on Google the Penrith Men's Walk and Talk, there's some fantastic videos on there. A lot of celebrities that we've been to our walk, mainly sporting celebrities, and a couple of good promo videos as well, what we do. And yeah, thanks very much.
Yeah, we'll embed a link on this talk, so we'll make sure that the listener can access you guys. So, well done.
Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen. Really appreciate your time, and
Thanks, Simon.
thanks for being part of NavTalk.
Cheers.
Cheers.
We hope you enjoyed today's NavTalk. For any of those who listened in to our talk, who believe they could be suffering mental health issues, or more importantly, know someone who might be, please reach out to your local community, Lifeline, or related help services, and see what can be done. see what you can do to help a friend in need or yourself. These gentlemen and their story should resonate in the fact that the clouds of grief and mental health problems can have a silver lining, and there is help and support, and more so through walking and talking, as shown by the Penrith Men's Walk and Talk group. There is a tomorrow, and more so by talking about your problems and struggles and sharing those problems and struggles. Great things can be done, and a ray of sunshine can be brought to what is a very black and confronting situation that many people find themselves. Thank you for listening to NavTalk. If you'd like to catch up on other episodes from this series or previous, head to our NavWealth website. Until next time.